Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Dino. You know, to get the most performance out of any snow machine, regardless of make or model, you need to make sure that your drive belt is in good condition and it's set up properly as per your manufacturer's specifications. Now, in my case, I have a 2018 Ski Doo Enduro, and it has the 900 Ace 4-stroke engine and it sits in an XS chassis. Now for me, this is a great combination. The motor has enough horsepower for the type of riding that I do, and the clutch shifts really smoothly and the overall machine gets great fuel mileage. Normally, I switch my drive belt out every single season. However, last year I only put about 300 kilometers on the machine in total due to just overall world events, I suppose. So this year, I'm just going to pull the belt off and inspect it. I'm going to clean up the clutch sheaves, and then I'm going to reinstall that belt and set it as per the manufacturer's specifications. I find that works the best for me. So why don't you sit back, grab yourself something warm to drink, and enjoy today's show here on Dino's Tinker Shed.
As with any project, an owner's manual is a handy thing to have. Ski Doo has theirs online under their owner's zone / know-it-all all the way back to 1971. So I'm just going to pull the key out here just to isolate any of the power. And then I'm going to open up the clutch side. So you flip open these two tabs and pull on this center section, lift up on the upper rubber, and the door swings open. And I'm just going to lift up, swing the bottom of the door out, and get it out of the way just more for view. And here you can see the primary sheaves or the drive clutch, and also the cover that covers the secondary or the driven clutch. And you can see all the tools and the spare belt. Now to get this cover off, we're just going to pull out this hairpin, lift straight up so it comes off of this peg here, and slide it out of the little notch in the front. And the guard comes right off. And again, here you can see the drive pulley or the primary sheaves, as well as the secondary or driven clutch. So this is the one that transmits power directly to your track. I'm going to take some air pressure now and just blow out any belt dust or any kind of contaminants that might be in both the driven and the drive clutch, just to make sure it's clean inside. It's the very minimum you should do. Next, I'm going to take this little tool out of the toolkit. Now, this is a great little thing that opens up your belts. It's got a Torx key on one end and an Allen key on the other, and this threaded shaft. And this allows you to actually open up the sheaves on the driven pulley and allows you to get the belt off. So this hole here on the driven pulley is where you thread this tool in. So you basically just keep turning it in, and as you can see, it opens up the sheaves and allows the belt to drop deep into the sheaves themselves. And this is what actually allows you to lift the belt up and sort of pull it over top of the sheaves and finally over the drive pulley itself. It just kind of slides over the front and snaps out. Now I'm just going to lift up here and check for any loose play on the crank, or make sure that the clutch itself doesn't have any loose components. And I'm going to do the same thing to the driven pulley. Now, I had to reshoot this. I lost the footage. That's why the belt's on here. But basically, I'm just checking to make sure all the bearings for the jack shaft and everything are in good shape. And this one is. But take a look at how much corrosion is on the actual sheaves from sitting over the summer. This is probably due to a little bit of salt that was left inside the machine after I'd washed it. So I'm going to scrub all that off with some Scotch-Brite pads. Now, you don't want to use sandpaper on this. Basically, you're just going to use some Scotch-Brite. Try to move straight up and down towards the center of the clutch as best you can, and rotate the clutches as you need to. So you kind of scrub both sides, gently rotate them, and then do another section. You're going to do this for both the drive pulley as well as the secondary pulley you see here. So I'm just going to come in, and yeah, I'm kind of not going straight up and down here, but I'm really trying to get all that corrosion off. I'm going to follow this up with a little more air pressure just to blow any kind of aggregates that came off of that Scotch-Brite, any kind of abrasives out of the clutches. I'm going to follow this up here with a little bit of rubbing alcohol on a paper towel, just getting any oils or any contaminations that might still be on the sheaves. Once this is done, I'm going to turn my attention over to the belt itself. Now, as I said, this belt's pretty much brand new, and you can see it's pretty much round. It does have a few little egg shapes in it, but even a brand new belt will have little areas like this that aren't quite round. What you're looking for on a belt like this is any cords that are teared out, any missing chunked out cogs on either the inside or the outside here, and you just work your way around the entire belt on both sides, making sure that the belt's in good shape. And this one really is. You can kind of see there's no real problems with this belt at all, which I expected not to have. Now do take note that the belts are directional. You can see here that the rotation of the forces push forward. So in this case, you want those arrows pointing towards the front of the machine when the belt's on. So I'm going to reinstall it here, and I'm going to slide it around the drive pulley. And once I get it in there, I'm going to feed it up and back around the driven pulley. So I'm going to push it down deep into the sheaves, and that gives me the space that I need to get it all the way around. As I loosen off the tool here, I'm going to jiggle the belt a little bit, just so that it works its way and walks its way out to the edges of the driven pulley. It won't get all the way out, but you'll get it a long way if you give it a little jiggle like that. Now I'm just going to remove the key completely. Now as you see, it's sitting deep into the sheaves because the pulleys themselves are now coming together. So I'm going to rotate it in a counterclockwise direction, which is the direction of rotation for this clutch. And as you can see, the belt climbs its way back up to the top of the sheaves. And this is because it's spring-loaded and it's putting pressure on that belt. And as you can see, I have the belt oriented in the right direction. It's very important to get the maximum life out of your belt. Now I'm just going to get myself a little bit of ventilation here. I'm going to start the machine, and I want to make sure that all the carbon monoxide's blown out of the shed. So I'm going to open up both of my main doors here, and I'm going to use a small squirrel cage fan just to blow any exhaust out. So I'll just set it down right underneath the exhaust for the machine itself, and I'll turn it on to high. Now it's just a matter of starting it. So you can see when the machine's running, the drive pulley's constantly turning, but the driven pulley stays at rest when there's no throttle. As throttle's applied, the main drive pulley compresses through centrifugal force, and it pulls the belt down into the driven pulley sheaves. This is how it achieves the differential and gearing seamlessly across the rev range. It's what's called a constant velocity transmission. Now once the belt comes to rest without using the brakes, this will give you an idea of where the belt will sit in the secondary sheaves naturally, and this is how you want to do it. You don't want to stop the belt. You want it to come to rest on its own. And what you'll notice is the valleys of these cogs are sitting below the top of the secondary sheaves. Now the manual states that the bottom of those valleys should be level with the sheaves, the top of the sheaves. So what I'm going to do to adjust that is I'm going to loosen this lock ring here. So I'll start by loosening off this pinch bolt here, and this will allow us to turn that large nut. Now to turn it counterclockwise drops the belt, and to turn it clockwise raises the belt in the sheaves. So I'm going to turn this nut clockwise about 1/4 of a turn, and then I'm going to lock it back down in place. Now It is worth noting this nut is left-handed. It doesn't really matter too much, but it's just interesting to know. So I'll retighten this pinch bolt to secure the adjustment nut, and then I'm going to run the engine back up to speed a few times to see where the belt finally lands. So again, I'm going to start the unit and I'm going to rev it up. I don't have to rev it all the way, but just enough so that the clutch cycles, and I'll let it naturally come to a stop. Do this a couple times, and then I'll go back in and take a look at where that belt now naturally sits. And you can see we are almost there. It's really, really close to where the factory says you want to start from. So I'm going to turn it by hand. I'm going to check it again, and I'm going to keep coming back and readjusting that nut either clockwise or counterclockwise, depending on whether I need to raise or lower the belt in those secondary sheaves. It takes a bit of time, but eventually you'll get it down to where you want it to be. Now, once I get it where I want it, the last thing that I'm going to check is to make sure that the machine shifts into reverse easily. The 900 Ace has a mechanical reverse, and if the belt is too tight, you're going to have some problems engaging reverse. So I do this a couple times. This seems to work without any problems at all. So I think we're good to go. And the last thing that I want to do is just take my torque wrench and torque this pinch bolt back down to the specified torque.
That is exactly how the manual says to set your belt tension. Now, when I bought this brand new from the Ski Doo dealer, they told me that they always set the belt tension so that the top of the cogs is even with the top of the driven pulley. Now, they only do this for the 4 strokes, the 600, the 900, and the 1200, and they indicated to me that they do that so that it shifts into reverse a little bit easier. But as you can see, set as the factory says, it shifts into reverse for me fine, and I've never had a problem with it. Now, you may choose to adjust your belt any way that you want to. This, as indicated in the manual, is the starting point. So if you have track creep or maybe really hard shifting into reverse, you may need to adjust this belt up or down in the secondary sheaves to get the machine to do exactly what you want and the transmission to work in the way that you like. For me, this seems to work really, really well. Well, that wraps up today's episode on changing the drive belt and adjusting belt deflection on a 900 Ace Ski Doo in the XS chassis. Now, this is really a simple process. Anybody can do it. It's right in the manual to show you how to do it. And it really is something you should be doing at least at the beginning of the riding season at the very minimum. And really, you should be checking it 2 or 3 times throughout the riding season, depending on how often you ride and how aggressively you ride as well. You've already got the side cover open to check the oil. You can take the clutch cover off and check belt deflection really, really quickly. And as I showed you, it really doesn't take much time to actually adjust it to where you need it. Now, the machine will give you some hints if the belt needs adjusting. It may be hard to get into reverse, and starting off from a standstill, it may either creep a little bit or may shift really hard before the sled starts to move. Those could all be indicators that your belt is either out of adjustment or maybe even needs replacing. So until next time, I'm Dino. I hope I showed you something here that you find useful, and if I did, I hope you stop by the Tinker Shed soon to watch a few more videos. But until then, you have yourself a great day, and I hope to see you soon here on Dino's Tinker Shed. I can't wait for snow.